Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see so many of you here today as Sustainable San Mateo County launches its 29th annual indicators report, Local Food Actions for a Cooler Future. I'm Sarah Hubbard, Executive Director of SSMC. For those of you who may not know us, Sustainable San Mateo County is a nonprofit founded in 1992 to advance sustainability right here in our county. Our work centers on supporting local leaders, like many of you, in adopting policies and programs that move sustainability forward. We define sustainability through what we call the 3 E's: the environment, the economy, and social equity. All 3 need to work together for communities to thrive. And while state and national action is important, we believe local jurisdictions can make a real difference through the policies you pass, the programs you support, and the way you communicate with the public. SSMC is committed to providing trusted data and practical insights that help our communities make informed decisions for a sustainable future. This year, our indicators report addresses the climate impacts of food, focusing on aspects that local communities have the most influence over: consumption, recovery, and waste management, all of which affect greenhouse gas emissions. For cities and the county, these are critical issues. Food is often overlooked in climate planning, yet globally it contributes 34% of greenhouse gas emissions and 60% of methane emissions. In San Mateo County, food is the 3rd largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. So, what can we do to address this? Well, spoiler alert, we can directly influence food-related emissions through policy, education, and community programs. This year's indicators report reviews local government commitments and identifies key challenges and opportunities to reduce food-related emissions. I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of the interns and volunteers listed here who poured their energy into this project, and to thank the city and county staff, the nonprofit collaborators, the waste management partners, and other community members who shared their time, data, and perspectives through surveys, interviews, and content review. A special thanks to Ben Gould of EcoData Lab and Professor Christopher Jones of UC Berkeley for sharing the data on food consumption emissions. Many of you here also contributed to our research. While the full list of collaborators is too long to go through here, their names and agencies are listed on page 7 of the report's introductory section. Without you and many others, this report and its recommendations would not have been possible. So thank you. We're also grateful to the sponsors that have supported this report launch event, shown here on the screen, as well as the organizations who are here today sharing information and resources at the tables in the back. And of course, for the donation of pastries by Copenhagen Bakery in Burlingame. I hope you're enjoying them. First up on today's agenda is Simona Vallone, our program manager and the report's coordinator and prime author. She'll provide an overview of the report and set the stage for today's 3 speakers. We'll have an opportunity for questions and answers after each speaker, and then make a few closing remarks and have additional time for networking, which clearly you all like to do. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Simona Vallone to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you again to all the contributors and to all the stakeholders, staff managers, and that helped us making this happen. So going straight into the report, this year we researched the connection between the food system and greenhouse gas emissions and what we can do locally to mitigate those emissions. So to start, we say when we say food system, we really mean everything that has to involve food. So farming, production, transportation, consumption, all the way to waste management. So food systems are one of the largest contributor to greenhouse gases, but also one of the least addressed drivers of climate change. This chart shows the global greenhouse gas emissions by sector. The data comes from the IPCC, the UN scientific body reporting on leading climate science. According to the data, agricultural production accounts for 22% of the total greenhouse gas emissions, shown here in yellow. Of these 22%, half are due to deforestation, which is primarily caused by the clearing of the land for grazing animals and grow crops to feed the animals. About a quarter of the direct emissions come from animals, particularly methane-producing livestock, such as cows. And another 25% comes from other practices, such as soy tilling and rice cultivations. In addition to the emission from food production itself, growing food, farming, clearing the land, there are other emissions related to the food systems. They are counted under other sectors. For example, refrigeration, cooking, processing are counted under energy. Food waste is counted under industry sector. So when we combine all those emissions, we find that 34% of total emission are linked to the global food system. But not all food have the same climate impact. Animal products alone are responsible for 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions and 50% of all methane that comes from the food system. When we look at different foods like those in the chart and the emission through the entire supply chain, foods that derive from animals, which are marked by the red arrows in the chart, have much higher carbon footprint. Production, the light green and the pink portion of the chart bar, are much larger contributor to the overall emissions of each food than transportation, for example. Beyond climate, the food system places intense pressure on ecosystems, driving fresh water depletion, biodiversity loss, and pollution of air and waterways. And a significant portion of the resources invested in making the food is lost every year. Globally, 30 to 40% of all food produced is never eaten. And that statistic is true also for California. When food is wasted, so are the land, the water, the energy, the labor that was invested in producing it, along with all those emissions that were released. So, like for the energy transition, which combine clean energy expansion with efficiency improvements in building and industry, transforming our food system will require both shifting towards food with lower carbon emissions and wasting less, making better use of the resources we already invest in growing the food. So this report focuses on two of the most impactful levers for reducing food-related emissions, which are food consumption and food waste. So the first chapter in the report covers food consumption and provides a breakdown of the county-wide emissions related to food, an overview also of the commitments of our local governments and what is happening in our county from the point of view of key stakeholders. Looking at the data, food consumption accounts for 17% of the total household emissions in San Mateo County. Emission linked to food consumption ranks third after transportation and services. Think of healthcare, entertainment for services. Here's the breakdown of the emissions from 6 categories of food that we consume at home. Animal-derived products, such as meat and dairy, accounted for 45% of all emissions. And the average per capita emission from food consumption is 2.2 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, the yellow bar on the right hand. That's the average in the county, but the footprints vary across communities. And these differences reflect a mix of demographic and socioeconomic factors such as household size and income. Since climate action plans, also known as CAPs, offer a window into the commitment of the jurisdictions to address emissions, we reviewed them and found that most climate action plans actually give a little attention to food consumption. Overall, all dimensions were marginal, and we didn't really identify any developed concrete strategy or actions. The interview we conducted with sustainability managers across the country show a lot of promise. They point to opportunity in education, municipal procurement, and emission tracking. And there is a lot of openness to collaboration and partnership. But the progress will likely depend on regional leadership and share resources to help expand plan forward option and connect them to the health and the well-being of our community. When looking at the public school in our county, we found that most districts already offer, for example, a daily vegetarian option. And our survey showed interest in expanding plant-based choices. Sustainability was the strongest motivator for doing so. Schools said that they need staff support, procurement help, and educational material to make plant-based options more successful. Around the world, local governments are using their economic influence, political will, policy tools, and public visibility to reduce the impact of food consumptions. Many begin with small steps, such as symbolic resolution, and then they expand to procurement policies or binding ordinances. I'm presenting here 5 strategies that local governments can use to lead our community. First, tracking emissions related to food, whether it is at the municipal level or at the community level. Many cities worldwide are already adopting consumption-based inventory as a tool to raise awareness, and they set reduction targets. Lack of awareness is one of the biggest barriers to advancing more sustainable food consumption. Partnership with organizations can really help. The organization Plant-Based Treaty, for example, offer educational material that can be co-branded and co-designed with the city and the county. We are very lucky to have Samantha Lau from Plant-Based Treaty here today, and be sure to stop by their table and take a look at the material. Local governments can increase municipal offering of plant-based options. Many cities begin with small weekly menu initiatives like Green Mondays in government buildings and cafeterias. Others have adopted binding procurement standards to institutionalize sustainability, equity, and health across food purchasing decisions. In 2021, Alameda County adopted the Good Food Purchasing Policy, aligning over $20 million in annual food purchases by the Sheriff Office and Department of Probation with core value of local economies, environmental sustainability, and animal welfare and nutrition. These initiatives builds on a regional momentum following similar adoption by Oakland Unified School District in 2014, then San Francisco Unified, and the city and the county of San Francisco. In 2024, West Hollywood committed to serving plant-based food as the default at all city-sponsored events. And in 2025, this year, Los Angeles County passed a binding motion requiring plant-based standards in over 110 food service contracts, showing how large institutions can drive climate and health impact. Fourth, municipalities and counties can offer financial incentives that encourage institutions and businesses to expand access to climate-friendly foods. This can take the form of grants, rebates, or tax credit designed to offset the perceived or real costs of shifted type of food that's served. For example, Austin, Texas provided food and climate equity mini grants to grassroots organizations and individuals supporting community-driven solutions for sustainable diets. And beyond financial incentive, public recognition can be a powerful driver of change, shifting food norms and encouraging broader participation. When amplified through social media or public events, such recognition can build community awareness and momentum. Switching gears, on our second chapter covers food waste. We look at the trends in solid waste emission across the county. We also draw on interviews with key stakeholders to show where progress is being made and where gaps still exist. Many of you know SB 1383, but here briefly, this is a California law that was signed in 2016 with the goal of cutting methane emissions. One of the ways this is done is by reducing food and organic waste that ends up in our landfills. Why methane? Methane is a far more potent greenhouse gas emission than CO2, but it's also short-lived. So meaning that methane that's emitted today will be gone on average in 10 years. So this can be a really powerful climate action. So per SB 1383, local governments and commercial property and multifamily property and schools must provide organic collection and education. And local government are also tasked to recover the food and ensure compliance. We're very fortunate to have Michael Bromwick, the Vice Chair of Rethink Waste Board, here to tell us more about implementation of SB 1383 in our county. Across California, the organic waste, the fraction of the waste that emits methane, makes up a third of solid waste. So 40% of that is food, as you see on the chart in yellow. And 34% of that food is still edible and can be donated. And while a large part, the non-donatable fraction in the chart, is actually the food that's partially consumed. Like think of the leftover pizza that we forgot in the back of the fridge. Here, the figure shows the per capita solid waste emissions by jurisdiction in San Mateo County and the trends over time. Since 2005, emissions have declined, reaching a county average of about 0.2 metric tons CO2 equivalent per person. And reported values here only include the organics that were sent to the landfill, do not include the emissions from closed landfill, with the exception of Brisbane. Differences across cities often reflect population change or concentration of businesses and non-resident waste generators. You can explore the data more on our sustainability dashboard and of course, in the report. In our climate action plan review, we found that most CAPs commit to reducing organic emission, even those that predate SB 1383. So there's been a long awareness about this issue in our county. Strategies for organic collection are common, but the details vary from broad ordinances to specific actions. Most CAPs mention education, less than half mention procurement, and only 20% of food recovery. Requiring composting at public event is also a less common strategy. From the interview, we found that the biggest challenge is compliance in multifamily and commercial settings, and often low owner engagement make progress difficult. On-site visits and direct outreach help, but repeated education is critical. Cities uses different enforcement approaches. Some take a stricter line, with others focus on education before fines. And haulers play a key role in spotting non-compliance. On food recovery, San Mateo County showed leadership in its countywide ordinance. Today, we're lucky to have Gordon Tong, Waste Reduction Program Manager with the County Sustainability Department. And here is as one of our speakers, and he'll share more about these efforts. I also wanted to acknowledge the many food recovery organization partnering with the county, including Second Harvest, which is also here with us today. Finally, schools are making progress, but our survey revealed that the need of practical resources such as toolkit and staff training. Also, we will have Carrie D, the principal of Green Hills Elementary in Millbrae. She's here with us today and will tell us about how her school is tackling food waste. So we developed 10 recommendations that you'll find on the back of the executive summary and also in our report. And without going into much of detail, this is what we recommend. So we recommend that the jurisdiction include plant-based forward strategies in their climate action plans, launch a county-wide campaign to raise awareness, and expand access to healthy and sustainable food in underserved neighborhoods. We recommend strengthening green bean education, also the adoption of shared table programs in school, expanding compost bin placement in high-use areas, such as downtown, high-traffic parks, and providing stable, flexible funding for recovery or food recovery organization. We recommend establishing a waste ambassador programs in school, sharing key waste metric with the community, and adopting ordinance language that allow residents to report service issues on multifamily and commercial sites. Together, this recommendation will make our county's food system more efficient in its use of resources, minimize the emissions, and expand access to healthy, nutrient-dense, and sustainable food. So with this, I conclude, and I'll introduce you to our first speaker. So Michael Brownrigg has served on the Burlingame City Council since 2009, including 3 terms as mayor. He represents Burlingame on the Rethink Waste Board as a vice chair and also chairs the Zero Waste Working Group. He co-founded EPIS and Heritage Capital, which expands employee ownership to close wealth gap in our county. Earlier this year, the firm received the prestigious 2025 Skoll Award for Transitional Social Change. Michael will walk us through how Rethink Waste is implementing SB 1383 and driving our county towards zero waste. Please welcome Michael Brownrigg to the stage.
Thanks, everybody. It sounds like I can be heard okay?
Yeah.
Terrific. That's great. I want to first start by thanking SSMC for the work. Obviously, this is an environmental chapter that SSMC is focused on, but the work that the group does also on equity and the economy is so important for our county and for our country. So I really appreciate the broad scope of SSMC's work. You know, I sometimes take a step back, and I want to take a step back in terms of slightly higher level. So San Mateo County, as maybe all of you know, but maybe you don't, is probably the 4th wealthiest county in the country. But we don't swing. I don't think we hit as hard as we could in terms of leading policy, both at the county level, but at the state level, and even nationally. And that's one of the things that we can do with SSMC, but also at Rethink Waste. So I want to spend a minute talking about Rethink Waste more broadly, and I'll just quickly shout out Joe Lamariano, who's our executive director at Rethink Waste, Reagan Chung, who has helped me put together some of these points. And also I have to give a shout out to Sigal, who is our sustainability coordinator at the back, Sigal Michael. So thank you guys very much. Can we go to the first slide? Or do I have to do it? How do I do it? Here? Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's us. And I do want to talk briefly about what Rethink Waste is, because as important as it is for food waste, I also think our county and our residents care a lot about plastic waste. I think they care a lot about battery waste. I think they care a lot about waste and reducing it. So as I said, our residents have a very strong concern for the environment. Interestingly, California puts more waste into landfills than any other state per capita by an order of magnitude. So whereas state of Texas puts 17 tons per person into landfill, we put 34 tons. I don't think that, yeah, 35 tons per person. So we have a lot of work to do here in the state of California to reduce our waste footprint. And we've recognized that at Rethink Waste. So we created a zero waste working group about 9 years ago. This is a tremendous asset for our county. So it's actually right next door. It's a $168 million budget. It is one of the largest, so these things are called MRFs, material recovery facilities. It is one of the largest in the country. So we handle 1,200 tons a day of waste. The average MRF in the country handles 300 tons a day. We're also publicly owned. That's unusual. A lot of these facilities are privately owned. When you're privately owned, no disrespect, you are profit maximizing. And if it's cheaper to bring something to landfill, that's what you're going to do. We have a public purpose in running Rethink Waste. We are 11 entities, 10 cities, and the county coming together to try to do things more efficiently, but also with a public purpose. And so therefore, I want to make the pitch that we're not only your ally for food waste and recovery, but for plastic waste, for innovation that might drive this county forward, this state forward in better ways to do waste hauling and waste management. So I wanted to make that point. And we are all committed to it. We have great private sector partners who do the heavy lifting. So that's Recology, who picks up your bins every day, and it's SBI, who helps us manage the MRF. But importantly, sitting on top of that is this public agency of the 11 municipal entities who've come together. And what that means is, and we'll go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do it. So we have been focused on this for a while. At 1383, we are completely ready for it, in part because we've already been thinking about it. We did a waste characterization study a decade ago. We knew how much organic waste we were sending to the landfill. We knew what that meant for methane emissions. And so we took steps to try to extract organic waste even before the state, before 1383 was on anybody's radar. So we invested because, again, we're a public agency and we can make these kinds of investments in technology that would pull out food waste and turn it into biogas before it ever went to landfill. And that experiment got hobbled by COVID, because what stopped happening in the first year of COVID, we all stopped going to restaurants. So the amount of food waste collapsed. And so the experiment had to be put on pause. But that equipment, and that's me showing you where all the food waste goes into this enormous sort of garlic press that presses it into a slurry that then gets shipped off to one of our clean wastewater treatment plants and turned into biogas. We're going to now that the economy has recovered, we're going to be able to restart that that experiment to divert the food waste that makes it to our facility. I mean, lovely to recover food that can be eaten. I look forward to those programs rather than sending it to our facility or to landfill. But the stuff that does make it to our facility, maybe we can divert it from going into landfill. And as I say, we at Rethink Waste are here not only for food waste, but to advance other initiatives, to lobby in Sacramento for better. We've been a big supporter of the plastic recovery and really canceling plastics that can't be recycled. That's the big, probably everyone here knows it, but that's the big head fake. You know, we'll put a nice triangle on the plastic bin, but if it has a 5 on it, it doesn't matter that it has a triangle around it. You can't recycle it. So we've been a big proponent of that. All right, so then I'll get to the meat of what we're doing, and I'm looking forward to any questions that might come up. So because again, Rethink Waste is all 10 cities, county coming together. We have the ability to make life a lot easier for our member agencies, the city of Burlingame, the city of San Mateo, and so forth. So all of the reporting and legwork that goes with 1383, is going to be handled or at least guided by Rethink Waste staff. So another great investment for us, because we don't all of our cities don't have to then make sure Segal knows how to do all this, or we have to hire another Segal to handle 1383. So it's a great benefit for those 10 cities in the county who are part of Rethink Waste. So Rethink Waste has already put a lot of material into Spanish, Chinese, English, and is circulating it. I am confident there is a green bin problem. We all understand that with multifamily housing. I'm confident that's a solvable solution. Certainly, new buildings should allow for more bins. That's one practical thing that cities can do with their zoning. But we will make sure there are green bins there. We'll make sure people understand they can put food waste in the green bin. And I'm confident, it may be a little bit rocky, that between Rethink Waste and Recology, we'll make a really strong showing to educate multifamily. I think a bigger challenge is some of the procurement issues that the bill also requires. So the bill requires a massive amount of compost be purchased by municipalities and put to use. And they did that, the bill's authors did that for a good reason, which is just like bottles and cans. If you create a market, then people are more likely to use put stuff in the bin for recycling, and the haulers will be more careful about it and so forth. That's the idea. But it has created an enormous consumption, an enormous reporting burden on cities, and then an enormous consumption issue. And I was trying to find, but there's like some staggering statistic. If you were to do 1383's compost, you'd put like a foot of compost across the entirety of Burlingame or something. Like, it's really a large amount. And that was moderated in a recent bill last year to push out some of those requirements and make it a little more reasonable, which I think is important. Nevertheless, we do all have to manage where we're going to put all that compost. We are required to do that. And that, I think, is a challenge that we see coming up. We obviously have Recology as a great partner for much of the county, not all of the county. So I've talked about Rethink Waste because, of course, that's the agency on which I serve. The other 10 cities have their own hauling relationships. And frankly, I'm not as clear about all of them. I'm sure they're all great contracts and great partners, but I'm really speaking to the relationships that we know and manage. And so Recology has been a great partner for us. And they also will be identifying places where, the enforcement is more important, or if people aren't complying. And then it's up to the jurisdiction to go back and educate people. If need be, fine. And so I'm going to stop there because I do want to allow time for questions. I will just comment briefly on plant-based food. So I'm a huge fan of plant-based food diets. I would hope that to the extent that this becomes a public policy issue, in other words, if you want to come and create ordinances and so forth, that we try to focus on the positive and not the regulatory element. So to me, plant-based diets are delicious. Come visit 12 Month in Burlingame if you haven't. Entirely plant-based, amazing food. So you don't have to lose on taste, and it's cheaper. So let's focus on the positives for people changing their habits and try to avoid you'll forgive me, some of the scolding that sometimes goes on in this subject area. And I think we have a very positive story to tell on plant-based diets. So with that, thank you very much for giving me some time, and I'm happy to take any questions at the back.
About California versus Texas.
Yeah.
What is driving that double amount of waste? Is it the industries we have here? Is it really the household?
It is a staggering number. It comes from EPA, so I trust the number. It is a few years out of date, but I don't think it could have changed that much in the meantime. I'll try to get back to you about what accounts for that significant difference. It could be that we have a much larger agricultural economy than Texas does. Texas, more oil and gas, obviously. And that could be a big part of why we see so much more stuff going to landfill and so much more organic waste. We are the largest emitter, as probably shows up in the report, which I read the executive summary, but we are the single largest emitter of methane from landfills in the country. Yeah.
Construction waste, because that's something, oh, sorry. Can you speak about construction waste and how does that tie in with SB 1383?
You
Or
know,
doesn't it?
if I may, Reagan, would you like to address that in terms of, we take our construction waste elsewhere, but perhaps you have a point of view, a more expert point of view.
Hi, everybody. Reagan Chung with Rethink Waste. Construction waste is part of the diversion under 1383. So if you take the C&D waste to our facility, we will make it a conscientious effort to divert it and sort it through for reuse and repurpose. So it's also part of a Cal Green requirement in California too. So if you guys are doing construction project, whether it's single family home, commercial construction projects, is all part of under Cal Green and then also the Green Halo project too. So feel free to not to take too much time. Come speak with me afterwards. I can tell you more about it too.
Thanks, Reagan. Hey,
Can you
Pat.
talk a little bit more about the compost? I think many of us here are gardeners and stuff, and we'd love to know if there's a way that we can contribute to taking some of the compost.
Well, first of all, if you don't know, you can show up anytime at Rethink Waste at our Shoreway facility and help yourself to compost. We have a huge stack of it, and we love when people come and diminish the pile. So that's an always offer. I think in terms of managing the significant uptake in organic waste and compost that's going to come our way, I think cities working with Rethink Waste staff are going to have to develop a plan for how we actually can consume it. And yes, we will definitely reach out to our community gardeners and anybody else to make it as available as possible. By far, the cheapest way for a city to handle this is to have citizens come up with a truck and take it away. But we will probably have to be more proactive than that, would be my guess. And so we'll look at ways of also putting it to use in our parks and projects and so forth. It's a lot. It's a lot of volume that's required. Well, sorry, yes.
Thanks. Could you speak to kind of what the best case scenario was with that volume? Like, is it, I mean, you mentioned like 1 foot of compost over the entire area of Burlingame, but
So they, Cal Recycle, again, because they want to create a market, like it's no good diverting organics and then just having it pile up somewhere else. That just releases methane somewhere else and not landfill. By the way, one small thing I want to say is that not only is this smart, sustainable practice to divert material from landfill, but our county has a really significant cost increase coming whenever it is that Ox Mountain fills up. And it's not too far away. It might be a decade, it might be longer if we're good about reducing waste. But when that day comes, everybody's rates will go up because we'll have to haul a lot farther away. So there's a financial interest that we all have in addition to the environmental imperative to do better. With respect to the amount of waste, Cal Recycle set a per capita limit, amount, you have to take this much per capita. Those numbers were unreachable for any of our jurisdictions in the timeframe originally forecast. And so I forget the bill number, but last year the governor signed into law an extension and a moderation of some of those metrics. And I'm not familiar with exactly how that's changed, except to push out the deadline for all of that compost. It's not going to reduce it. I mean, we still have to take it, but it's not going to be as quick. It'll hopefully give us all enough time, all of our cities, to create the infrastructure to take and actually use that compost effectively. By the way, it's not just a city problem in terms of making this happen. There's not enough facilities to handle all of that organic waste. And on top of that, actually farmers quite like that organic waste. And ironically, if they were to follow 1383's guidelines, they would have sent so much more compost to cities, which we can't use, that it would have denied farmers the compost they need. So there needed to be some flexibility in how this ramps up and make sure we don't take it away from agriculture, which clearly is a great place to use compost. So that is handled in the rewrite last year, or the modification to the legislation last year.
thank you. And just brief follow-up, is there a kind of idea bank or something that we could then engage with our public works teams to say, here are 30 different things that you could be doing with all of this compost that we're going to be responsible to purchase? Or has that?
Joe, I'll put you on the spot, our executive director. Do you want to talk about ways that communities might think about using compost?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. An excellent presentation, I might add. We're working on this very fact. Reagan and our team will be working with the different member agencies to identify those. But the top, the material is a very high quality soil amendment. So there's also another component of it that is mulch. So the real fibrous stuff is mulch. So that is like an anti-erosion and is really good for preserving water and not having it evaporate away. So we are working on that now. We'll have a public outreach campaign that will elaborate on that more. So there's a lot of tentacles to this bill. We're very excited about it. We were a very early adopter and very strong supporter of this when it was making its way through the legislature and then ultimately to the governor's desk. So it's something we're very proud of, and we're very excited to implement it. And it's very challenging. Nothing comes easy on this thing, but so that's it.
Thank you all. I think my time is up, but I can catch you later, but I do want to make sure that my fellow speakers have their time. Thanks, Molly.
All right. Thank you, Michael. All right. Next up, we are going to hear from Gordon Tong, who is a waste reduction program manager with the San Mateo County Sustainability Department, where he manages a variety of waste diversion and education programs. They span topics such as edible food recovery, environmental education, and electronics recycling. With over 10 years of experience in the sustainability sector, he has played a pivotal role in projects such as the creation of Peninsula Clean Energy and the development of the county's SB 1383 and disposable foodware ordinances. Before joining the county, he worked in environmental departments for the cities of San Francisco and San Jose. He has a BS in Environmental Systems from UC San Diego and a Master of Environmental Science and Management from the Bren School at UC Santa Barbara. And we are so glad he made his way up the state to help all of us. Please join me in welcoming Gordon Tong.
Thank you so much for that. Good morning. I'm here today to talk about our countywide edible food recovery program. So I'm just going to get started here. So I'll start off by just giving a quick overview of the sustainability department. Our mission is to build a sustainable community that fulfills both the needs of the present, but also with the future. We have a wide variety of different programs that range from climate protection to climate resilience to stormwater management to waste reduction, which is the team that I work on. So I'll start off by talking about what is edible food recovery. So how we define edible food recovery is the collection of safe surplus food that would otherwise go to waste and is instead redistributed to people in need. This effort is usually led by food recovery organizations that have expertise both in recovering this food safely, but also distributing it to places where people are food insecure. What is edible food recovery, or what is edible food, and how we define it is food that's safe to eat, but is not sold or used for a variety of different reasons, from how it looks to the grade or the size if it's misshapen, or because there's just too much of it. What is not edible food? So any food that is moldy or rotting, anything that's contaminated or otherwise unsafe to eat, or just inedible scraps. So like bones and peels and shells. Don't donate your chicken bones, please. So how it works, this kind of shows what the edible food recovery process looks like. It starts with businesses that collect and stockpile the various foods that they have, and they have it ready for food recovery organizations to pick up. These food recovery organizations then pick it up and distribute it to their food recovery receiving sites, where volunteers portion out, sort food for communities to pick up. And it ultimately leads to the communities in need receiving this food, where it goes to fill homes and not landfills. So why is this important? There are 4 different factors in play here. The big one is being waste reduction. So it's been mentioned before, but 23 million tons of organic waste gets disposed of in the state. And of that, 18% of that is food. So there's a lot of opportunity there to reduce the amount of waste that's going into landfill. Food insecurity. So 1 in 7 Californians and 1 in 6 children don't know where their next meal is coming from. So this is an area that we feel strongly about and feel like the program can help with. And climate impacts. It's been also talked about the methane that's produced from food that is landfilled is huge, the super pollutant, and it's 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide when it talks about global warming potential. And that's why our program is a big opportunity, because we can help address all of these different things. What are the drivers for this program? So a big one, obviously, is 1383. That's been talked about previously by Vice Mayor Brownrigg and by the SSMC team. The regulations, in a nutshell, require 75% diversion of organic waste from landfills, and also 20% of that food, of edible food, needs to be recovered. The regulations put a lot of the role on to local governments to identify what the capacity out there is to recover edible food. The jurisdictions are also required to ensure that the edible food generators have access to these services. We have to monitor these generators for compliance, and we are also looking to expand the capacity for edible food recovery throughout the county as well. So those are kind of the 4 aspects of what we're required to do. So the edible food recovery program that our department puts on is a countywide program that is a joint effort between us and the 20 cities and towns throughout the county. The reason that we looked at doing this is because we want to leverage both the economies of scale for having one unified countywide program, but also create a more simple program for both the generators and food recovery organizations throughout the county. Our role in this program, we have a couple of, one is obviously to do the outreach and technical assistance. So letting them know that this is a requirement from the state and helping them comply with it by figuring out how to get set up with these different organizations. We're also auditing these businesses to make sure that they're in compliance per the regulations, to make sure that they are donating the maximum amount of food that they can, and that they have these contracts or other agreements set up to recover this food. And then we have a reporting requirement to the state. This is obviously part of 1383, so we have to report to the state and maintain records about our program and how much we recover and things like that. We also have a huge role in capacity building. So we want to make sure that the infrastructure is there throughout the county to recover this food. A big shout out to our different organizations that we work with. So I know that Second Harvest and Peninsula Food Runners are here today. So we want to acknowledge their help in running this program with us to do all the food recovery. But there are also tons of other organizations that are actually doing a lot of the work in helping recover the food from these different generators. So big shout out to them. And part of what we're doing, obviously, is partnering with them to make sure that we have a unified and cohesive program. And what are some of the impacts for the program that we've had so far? So here are some of the statistics that I wanted to share for since the program has started back in 2018. We've reduced, diverted millions of pounds of food, and that's resulted about 2,770 cars off the road, essentially, if we're talking about climate emissions. In terms of food that's recovered, that's 32 million pounds of food that's recovered by food recovery organizations. To be fair, that's not us, that's all different organizations throughout the county that have done this between 2020 and 2024. I talked about capacity building. So we've invested a lot of money into building up the capacity and infrastructure throughout the county. So a couple of things include like trucks and storage and other equipment that some organizations might need to further be able to recover more food in the future. And what it's led to is about 27 million meals that have gone to the community in need as a result of this program. So I think there's been a lot of good that's happened for this program so far. And looking forward into just what's next. So obviously, we're deeply supportive of SSMC and the work that they put into researching and putting together the launch report. Haven't read it yet because this came out today, but we look forward to looking at the recommendations and incorporating that into our program specifically. We're always looking into exploring new different models. This is still a very new space for everyone in terms of food recovery. So we're trying out a lot of different things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. A couple of examples include looking at placing community fridges to expand a distribution network for recovered food throughout the county. And also maybe looking at other models for sharing revenue or making sure that our partners get compensation for some of the hard work that they're doing. And direct to consumer food sharing, which is like ways that generators can just directly give away some of this food to the community without working with the food recovery organizations. So there's just a couple of models that we're looking at long-term or exploring possibilities moving forward. I talked about our partnerships. So obviously we want to continue supporting our partners in the edible food recovery realm. So we want to work with different organizations and strengthen volunteer networks. A lot of these organizations depend on volunteers to move the food around, to store the food and things like that. So one of the things that we're looking at moving forward is how we can further establish this and strengthen these networks. And then long-term funding, we want to make sure that there's a sustainable program for this moving forward. So we're always looking at ways to increase the amount of funding that goes towards these programs. And that's it for the overview of our program. I want to keep it short, but I want to just close by saying that this is, for us, beyond just compliance with 1383. We think this is a win-win program for the county, both in terms of reducing waste, but also helping the community that is food insecure. So for us, it tackles a lot of different boxes. Ticks a lot of boxes. And again, also want to shout out to our partners and our food recovery organizations that are doing a lot of the work in actually recovering this food. So a huge shout out to them as well. And with that, that's my presentation. Thank you for listening. And I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, Tracy.
Yeah, this is less of a question and more of a shout out to the relationship that Second Harvest has been able to build with San Mateo County to work on 1383, because it is such a network effect to be able to work together. I also wanted to give a shout out to our food recovery team from Second Harvest over here, who can tell you a little bit more about how this actually works, because this year, I think it's well over 20 million pounds that we're recovering and getting out to food insecure people across our 2 counties. And that happens through a combination of Second Harvest going to big wholesalers and large retailers like Costco and rescuing food by the tractor trailer load, but then also enabling hundreds of our partners to go to their local grocery stores. And this team works to also really, in terms of equity, try and link up, for instance, a small Latino grocery store with an agency that can rescue and get it to the populations who will most appreciate that food. So, and also thank you to SSMC for really highlighting the fact that currently all this work is essentially not paid for by the state or the county or the governments. And so those long-term sustainable solutions for making this happen will really be helpful.
Thank you, Tracy. Yes.
Thank you.
With the federal cutbacks in SNAP and the additional local food distributed from farms to various smaller programs, is there a way to create extra capacity through the food recovery system in order to reach the people who will suffer as a result of those cuts?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think I would start by differentiating between the food that's recovered, but also the food that comes through programs like SNAP and other other programs where food is, purchased, because what we found through the edible food recovery program is that it's hard to, or almost impossible to 100% provide, meet that gap of food that's required through recovered food, just because of a variety of different reasons. The quantity is not there. The nutritional makeup of recovered food is not enough to provide to completely fulfill those needs. So there's always going to be room and a need for programs like SNAP and other programs like that. We can definitely try to fill the gaps for where we can, but a large amount of it will still be needed. So I wanted to stress that, because it's a need, and edible food recovery, while we'll supplement it, it won't completely help that. But yeah. Yes.
Thanks, Gordon. Can I just speak? Thanks, Gordon, for the work of your department. I guess and huge shout out to Second Harvest, which is just a remarkable resource for our community and all the work they do. I guess, I have a very good friend who does this work in Washington, D.C. For DC Central Kitchen. So very familiar with these issues. And I wondered if there's a way, if we should think about investing. So a big part of this is a time problem, right? How long before the fresh produce isn't good anymore, or it's, and so is there an investment we should think about making in a supersized kitchen where we could actually take that food and prep it and freeze it or whatever, so that from a time point of view, it can be used in the future, it can be distributed more, and in order to recover more? Would that be a good idea, or is that already being done?
That is actually already being done in some organizations. I know off the top of my head, I think Samaritan House has a similar concept where they have a kitchen where they receive recovered food and then they prep it for distribution. Because in addition to what you mentioned about the time issues, also like how the food arrives and getting that ready for, how is it best, allocated for distribution, whether it's boxing up in meals or making it otherwise more easily accessible for folks in the community, because we can't just take, a whole sheet cake, plop it on the table and say, come and get it. So there's, obviously work involved with that. But I know that Samaritan House has like a kitchen like that can do that kind of work, but that's, yeah, a good idea.
Hi, Gordon. I think you alluded to this already, but there's like a problem with, so let's just give you a scenario of you attend a catered event where there is a lot of excess prepared foods. It's free for that event to just throw it away. But it costs money to actually coordinate, or it costs time and resources to coordinate a pickup of that food, to put it into containers that are certified clean, to have volunteers then come and transport that food, and then to store it, refrigerate, etc. So that's a huge perverse incentive to just have that food go to the landfill. Is there a way to come up with some kind of a program where you can essentially reward the participants, both the venue that is donating the food and the people who are essentially collecting that food for reuse, that's effectively paid out of the averted waste, where we are contributing money toward?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, I would say I wouldn't categorize it as free when you're throwing it away, right? There's a cost associated with it. I guess it depends on your setup and your, arrangement with the venue. But if you're talking about a generator, you're throwing it away, you're paying for that disposal cost. So anything that you're recovering and you're not throwing in the trash is potential savings. Now you might have to adjust, how much your service levels are, and how much compost or your landfill bin is being serviced, but there is a cost associated with that. So I wanted to flag that first. And second, I think the big part is that 1383 essentially is making this a requirement. So it's no longer, at least for the larger generators, which 1383 targets, it makes this not an option. So you cannot just decide, I'm just going to throw this away instead of recovering it because it's easier. Well, you can't because you're required by law to actually donate this food. So for these organizations that fall into that threshold, we will have that incentive to encourage these or require that these businesses look for ways to recover all their food that they can, working with organizations to pick it up. Yes, there is going to be, additional time to organize and set it up logistically, but with 1383, it's no longer an option to just simply throw it away. So that's the one kind of benefit of 1383 that wasn't, previously present in other legislation, maybe. Yes.
Yeah, I have an idea related to the question that the most recent gentleman just asked. My daughter is attending University of Oregon, and they have a program called Leftover Text Over. And you essentially sign up as a student and you get text whenever there's leftover catering food. It's like whatever is available, in this particular place. And then all the students show up and just fill their, to-go containers and then have food, for the next night, the next morning. And it just seems like such an incredible idea that maybe we could, in the direct to consumer, we could have something like that for San Mateo County. Maybe people could sign up to say, I want to hear about any leftovers available within, a 2 or a 5 or a 10-mile radius. And then maybe the county could provide like the materials for the to-go piece. But that would kind of eliminate the middleman and make it available to anyone who wanted that food.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And I think that is definitely one of the models that we've are looking at when I talked about the direct to consumer. When you think about it, it's an old idea, right? It's the fact that, even now, if your office has an event, you have extra food, there's a call that goes out, there's extra food in the kitchen. So it's kind of like that, but it's just scaled up, right? But you're letting the community know instead of just like your office. I know there are a couple of apps that are out there that will try to address this more easily. That will essentially notify, you can sign up to be notified if like your particular area, there is a generator that has extra food that they put out a call and you get notified. I think they're still kind of in the early stages, but they're all along that same model of like, yes, there are ways sometimes where you can just make it directly available to the residents without having to have it transported. And I think there's room in the program for all sorts of models, not simply the food recovery. So that's one of the exciting things that I think we can look forward to as this program matures and we learn more about these different ideas. And I think that's my time. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Gordon. It's so exciting to hear about all the innovations coming from our partners across the county. I want to now, well, actually, first, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Molly Carter. I work with Sustainable San Mateo County. I lead outreach and communications. So if you get our emails, they're probably coming from me. If you have feedback, only positive, come see me. No, just kidding. Would love to talk to you about anything on your mind. But now we turn to a third actor in these topics that we're talking about. Schools are a big player across the board in food waste, food recovery, sustainable diets. So I'm really pleased to introduce our final speaker, Carrie Dees. Carrie Dees, for 31 years, has been a passionate educator and school administrator, teaching and leading students from preschool to 8th grade. She's a proud native of the San Francisco Bay Area, having grown up and lived on the peninsula her entire life. In her work, she's dedicated to promoting inclusivity and sustainability, fostering leadership opportunities, and engaging in national advocacy through various professional associations. She received the San Mateo County Office of Education Changemaker Award in 2023. And this is some of what her colleagues have shared about her. She's a fierce advocate for children. She has an unwavering student-centered lens, an uncanny ability to constantly scan for and identify needs and deftly swoop in with proactive solutions that support the entire school community. I'm excited to hear about these solutions for reducing food waste. Carrie?
I'm I'm reeling back from the comments. Thank you so much. And Simona, Molly, thank you for bringing me here to just share with you what things look like at schools or what they could look like in our elementary schools. I'm sure everybody went to some sort of school, had a teacher they loved, a principal that they adored. But I just want to, take this moment to share with you what can be done. I just remember recycling. Like just recycling, put the paper, put the cans. And as you can see, there's a crucial part that we can educate our kids a little bit differently. So I'm going to share with you some pictures, just tell you a story about all our sustainable efforts, and then finish up with what we're doing the past couple years with our food reduction. There are lots of things that our schools can participate in, and this is not done alone by just your school leader. You have to work with your partners in the city and the county. And through all of this work, I'm just proud to, say that through all of our efforts, not alone, we have become a San Mateo County sustainable and climate-ready school, a climate and resilient school with the San Mateo County Office of Education, recently awarded a Green Star school, as well as the first Millbrae school to become a green business. So I want to, all of the things have been a part of that. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of our journey. So all things sustainable is really about a school culture. It takes years. So I'm just starting my 5th year at Green Hills Elementary. And to give you a point, if your favorite pancake is at the Millbrae Pancake House, we're about 4 blocks up the street. So come by anytime. We dead end right where the Green Hills Country Club is. So the pictures I'm sharing with you are the essence of having a strong community culture. You can see a parent here and some of our 5th graders last year that we worked with Flows to the Bay. We installed rain barrels. On the other side is a school garden. That school garden was built with Eagle Scouts that reach out to all the schools to do their projects. We also work with the San Mateo County Office of Education Safe Routes to School. And we're proud to launch an extension of our walking school buses. We'll be moving from once a month to weekly walk to school Wednesdays. And that's partnering with all of the opportunities, Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, International Walk and Roll to School Day, lots of opportunities that we can sort of embrace and share with our school communities. In addition, we recently worked with our high school friends over at Burlingame High School. They piloted a sustainable foodware program. If you've been to a school cafeteria recently, there's a lot of plastic, but they funded a pilot program for our 3rd through 5th graders in which they gave the foodware to our students, and then we incentivized them bringing them back every time with stickers and applause. But it's really important to engage with our young leaders that are coming up through middle school and high school. One of the first things that we need to do at our schools, if you haven't heard about it, is really embrace the leadership. A lot of student councils, we were able to just capitalize on the fact that we have green in our school name. So we have a green team, and that have been recognized at different San Mateo County schools as well. I really encourage, if you have any leadership opportunities, to tap in at your elementary or middle schools. This is really something that kids, see and they hear and they feel. And they're really proud to share what they're doing with their school. The next slide is moving on to food. So recently we worked with our Eagle Scouts, San Mateo Office of Sustainability. We have our tri-bin composting station that's currently making mulch for our gardens. And last year we also implemented the food share tables, which is really great. And I think I have the next one. I'm going to click right. We had our green team make a presentation to all the classrooms, and we posted this out to our community. I just clicked play, right?
Green team leaders, and this is the table share where we put our food
and vegetables that we don't eat. This is the hot food one. It has all the hot food, and then sometimes we get some here. This is where the ice packs are, and it's where all the cold foods are, like the milk and the carrots. Then here's the fruit and packaged snacks. We have pears, and sometimes it has like snacks and stuff. And then this is utensils and condiments. It has like various packets and utensils. And then this all goes to reuse.
and this is the bucket where we put our food that we eaten and put in the cupboard for we make soil.
Hello, today we will be showing you how we produce our own compost for our garden. In the compost bins, we put fruits and vegetables from lunch. We also put the cardboard trays and we rip them up and put it in there. We do not put anything else. Now we will begin tending to our compost.
This is the early stages. So I think you get the point. But with all of the things that we've been able to implement, there's still challenges. And there I am championing some of our school food waste with my latest AI Gemini and our green team that we've established. So we have a lot of barriers and things to still overcome. The first is time and resources. I worked really closely with our director of child nutrition because all things 1383 also come upon her desktop. And one of the things that we have tried to work on is proper sorting, is moving. They did a great job, but all the right things don't get in the right bins sometimes at school. So that's part of our education. These green team kids go to all the classrooms and educate how to properly sort. We also have food that is often stuck to packaging. We serve yogurt, but we can't get all the yogurt out. So all the yogurt in the plastic bin goes into landfill. We have cheese cups. The cheese cups don't get fully cleaned out, so it goes into landfill. We have the cooked food waste that goes to the shared table. We have kids that take a bite and then don't eat it. They don't like it. We are offering choice, which is our responsibility, but there's also a hiccup that they have to take a fruit or vegetable. Was that your favorite thing to eat in third grade? Maybe not. So we are required to make them take a main item, a hot dog, a chicken leg, a salad, and then a side has to be a choice of a fruit or a vegetable. Fortunately, you don't have to take milk anymore. However, with that, the food that is not eaten entirely, some of it can be composted and some of it cannot. We also have the opportunities to put things in food banks, to give things to some of our shelters, but the time and the resources are not at schools. By the time lunch is over and we're able to keep refrigerated enough out on a hot summer day or sunny day at the schools, the temperature has changed. Our director of nutrition doesn't want to risk anyone getting sick, and we don't have proper refrigeration or maintaining heat, as well as bringing them to the place that it needs. We don't have the transportation. We don't have the people to get it where it needs to go. So those are just some of our challenges, but we are making movement. And I just want to applaud as well the partners. It takes teachers, it takes parents, it takes students. And that's what we get when we're at schools. We also do have to work with our nutrition department. Our superintendents and school boards need to feel this same passion as well and make it directives. San Mateo County Office of Education, great resources. Like I mentioned, safe routes to school, sustainability departments. We work closely with South City Scavengers in Millbrae. And then always tap into our youth that want to help us out as well, our Eagle Scouts and our students that I highlighted at Burlingame High School. We've had a lot of help with that. So with that, here's me, my contact. I'm proud to represent Millbrae Elementary School District here today. And like I said, we're on Ludeman Avenue, right up from the Pancake House. And I'm here to take any questions or ideas or any alternative solutions to how we can better support our food waste in our schools. Thank you.
Hi, this is Wendy Cho. I'm with the nonprofit Actera. First, I just wanted to commend you on all the wonderful work you've done at your school. It sounds amazing. I'm really excited to hear about all these things. I have two comments. One is that Actera is a network manager for the San Mateo County Food System Alliance. So I just wanted everyone to know that we're also a resource for that expanding of partnerships in the community that you mentioned. We have a farm to school committee, and some of the members of that committee are forwarding solutions like bulk milk dispensers. So kids just get the amount of milk that they want to drink, and then they don't waste what's left in the carton. And that it's actually been shown that the waste does go down, and also the costs go down for the district when they don't have to be buying all that cardboard. So that's something that we've been forwarding. Another thing that our members have observed is that the time for students to eat lunch is quite restricted because, of course, they want to go out and enjoy recess, they want to play, and just, the length of time, it might make a difference for food waste prevention to have a little more time for those meals. And any comments on that?
No, I did want to highlight time as well. At my school in particular, we've got just a limited of time. We have certain grade levels eat, and then they have to clean up to make space for the other group that's coming to eat. And sometimes I'll admit, I'm sort of rushing kids to clean up so that they can move on. And some of them then see the playground, so they don't finish. I've heard about a few things I'm willing to entertain, like they want to get up and they talk to their friends. It's their first opportunity to kind of be in an unstructured environment, which also, I would say wastes eating time, but it's not because it's so important socially. And as a culture, food does bring us together. But one thing I've heard at one of my other advocacy groups is that they have a 5-minute eat in silence. It's going to be hard, but it could be a goal where they're actually just starting to eat and consume. You can consume a lot in 5 minutes. And then, okay, now it's party time. Now you can kind of eat and celebrate with your friends. But it is something we're bound to instructional time. We're bound to teacher supervision and duty-free lunches, which also might increase the instructional day, which impacts transportation, which impacts parent schedules, which impacts after-school programs. So there's a lot to overcome in both the time piece of it, but I appreciate you bringing that up, especially better ways to not have milk carton food waste. A lot goes into the landfill.
Hi, thank you so much for all the activities. It's just amazing. Wanted to say that I'm with reuse organizations running locally to move everything to reusables, basically not throw anything away. It's a great match with the food waste. So specifically in schools is one of our focuses. It's not the only one, but looking for anything that interest from your own school, A, to move to reusables, B, to match it with all the food waste initiatives, B, from anybody else in the crowd who's interested in these initiatives, not only for that school, to get them together and make sure that we're making the most out of it. So for your school is your interest, and for everybody in the crowd, be happy to connect later.
Great, thank you.
First off, thank you. I think you used to teach it, or you were vice principal at Clifford a few years ago, right?
That is true.
Okay. Do you find that I've read a lot of research on this topic across the US. Do you think that you're an outlier in this community, or do you feel like when you meet with other educators, other principals, that they're following some of these basic principles and doing something, I think, that really moves the needle? Because let's face it, us as adults, I don't think I see a compost barrel here for our food waste, but that's just maybe outside. But I mean, do education at school, teachers have a lot on their plate, teaching them, having them spend another 10 minutes a day or a week or a month talking about these things. How do you do it? Do you think you're an outlier? And how do we amplify it?
I hope I'm not an outlier. But when I've had other outside agencies visit the school, they have said, even if within my school district and school board, they say, I wish all the schools did this. So I think it is about building capacity within our school leaders and sort of trying to have that shared passion, just using our information that we have through all of our resources here and really, owning that as our responsibility to teach our children these things. I had a 4th grader last year who actually said, there's a name for that generation now, it's Alpha. So she even said after a presentation in the class, it's up to our Alpha generation to make this change happen. So they're well aware of it. We weren't aware of these things likely in the 80s or 70s, right?
Hi, Carrie. I have a question over here. Hi, I'm Sam from Plant-Based Treaty. Thank you first of all, congratulations on such an incredible program at your school. I really appreciate everything you're doing with the green team. I have actually 2 questions. The first one is, how do you educate the kids, and is there a program that regularly educate about sustainability and, all things sustainable? And then my second question is really, how did you get milk to not be a choice? That must have been a really challenging way to get that off the menu. And I'd love to hear more about that. Thank you.
Well, I think, like I mentioned, it wasn't me. I actually have a team of 5th grade teachers that really lead the charge with the green team. And they personally have made it a priority. It's who they are as human beings. One of them is actually the district coordinator for San Mateo County Outdoor Education. So that has a layer in it as well. But it's really about finding those partners. I think the county has access to them. I think principals and school leaders just need to pay attention to those emails that might say something like the eco exchange that happened at the San Mateo County Office of Education last week. And so I think that I believe that it really takes, some partnership, and that's where you're really going to gain traction, and tapping into the opportunities for our youth as well, because they bring it to their peers, which is much more impactful than us as adults. I hope that answered both questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to
one more.
respond to your question about what's going on at schools around the county. So I direct the Environmental Literacy and Sustainability Program at the San Mateo County Office of Education, which Carrie's been talking about. Carrie is absolutely one of our biggest champions, but there's actually a plethora of schools that have green teams, just like Carrie's. Carrie's is super successful. They're at, different levels of success for sure. We also have sustainability committees at every high school district, and also all of the unified districts with the exception of one. And I will tell you that their number one concern is waste, and particularly food waste. The Youth Commission this year is making that their topic. So they are focusing on food waste. We also have a Youth Climate Ambassadors program, which is high school students from around the county. It's been going now, this is our 7th year. And they always, that's again, one of the first things that they want to talk about. It's very visible at their schools. And so students are very aware, teachers are very aware, principals like Carrie are very aware there's just some of those barriers that Carrie was talking about that everybody's trying to work through. And so we do have a long way to go, but at the same time, I wanted you to rest assured that there's a lot going on in schools.
Thank you. And thank you so much. It was a pleasure and honor to be here today.
Simona, tech support, please. There we go. So please join me again in thanking our speakers today for sharing their insights and their encouraging words. There's so much that we can do as a community to address greenhouse gas emissions related to food consumption, recovery, and waste management. And I hope you found their presentations informative and inspiring. So thank you again, all of you. To help turn today's insights into action, SSMC will be hosting a series of webinars in early 2026. It's hard to believe that that is just a few months away. These sessions will dive deeper into the topics from this year's indicators report and highlight practical steps that local leaders and community members can take on food and climate. We'll share details early next year, so please stay tuned for our announcements. Coming from Molly. If you're not already signed up for our general or our city leader newsletters, you can do so at the table in the back near the exit. We do have a few other events coming up that I'd like to announce. And as previously mentioned, nominations for SSMC's 2026 Sustainability Awards are due October 14th, and Green Building Award applications are due November 3rd. This year, we plan to make the awards event more inclusive by lowering the price and changing the format a little bit. So I hope you can all attend and be inspired by the amazing progress being made across San Mateo County. On November 6th in Redwood City, SSMC is hosting a Q&A session and a film screening of Eating Our Way to Extinction. It's a great way to learn more about the global impact of food systems that this indicators report doesn't go into in detail. And perhaps it may give you some insights into your holiday meal planning. We'll see. Details and registration forms are available through the QR code on the screen and also at the table in the back of the room. And finally, we've provided a copy of the report's executive summary on each chair. Additional copies are available upon request, and the full report can be downloaded using the QR code that's printed on the back of the executive summary here on the screen on the left. And we'll also send a link in a follow-up email. SSMC's work and impact wouldn't be possible without the collaboration of our volunteers, our board members, our advisory committee, our sponsors, and our donors. Many of our board members and our advisory committee members are here with us today. If you could raise your hands or stand if you're able, just so you can be recognized. Thank you so much. We welcome all of you to join our efforts in making San Mateo County a more sustainable place. You can get more information about current opportunities using the center QR code on the screen, and it's also located on the table in the back. And last but not least, we are always interested in hearing how we can improve our programs. We would appreciate it if you took a moment to complete the survey and give us feedback using the link on the right. I do also want to mention that while this program was happening, we did receive notification that we have an additional sponsorship. So I want to give a shout out to San Francisco Silicon Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau and mention that any of the organizations that you represent are welcome to join in this sponsorship opportunity. We will continue to promote those agencies as we have these additional webinars and educational opportunities through our emails. So it's not too late. So thank you again to all of our speakers, to everyone who contributed to this report, and to all of you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Please enjoy some pastries from Copenhagen Bakery.